Hi guys, MORTPIG here. So in this video, it's titled "Why Every Australian Will Be on Centrelink in 10 Years' Time." That's a pretty provocative headline. So this is from the Unemployable podcast. They do a big talk sort of every week, so it's about an hour long. But I'm just going to go through the different chapters. I think that's related to that title, and let's have a look.
Arguing at the Talkfest for a 4-day work week in Australia, because that's going to be amazing for productivity because we're such a productive nation as it is right now. That was also really encouraging development. What did you guys think of that? Were you cheering that all the way home for our small business operators?
So I can't tell if he's being sarcastic here. That a 4-day work week is going to be great for productivity. Let's just continue this.
Yeah. Cafe owners who live in a world where their customers come in 7 days a week and their employees just want to work 4. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, even better now for small businesses. Just become even better of a country for small businesses. And you sent us something else recently about someone who couldn't find employees, has to ship them in from overseas.
Well, yeah, it's a friend of a friend. JP owns Drake Supermarkets, and he was on both. I think it was both sides, or it might have been. It was another big podcast in Australia this week, and it blew up in news because he basically said to run our supermarkets, we have to bring in offshore labour because nobody wants to work. We can't get any Australian employees to actually apply to work in our supermarkets. And I know JP. I've met him a couple of times. I don't know him really well, but he's really close friends with Richie, who we're all good mates with, right? They're very, very close. They have a very successful business, but they just can't get staff. And so, anyway, so it's the drama continues. I get it for like big business, and I think one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like for big businesses that have got even people in really high level positions, and it's more of a lifestyle for them. And if they're at to the point where that business is just humming along, and that can be a real good incentive to attract high level employees. But you couldn't be on a 4-day work week for very, very small businesses at all. So like, I don't know, bakeries or cafe shop owners, anyone where you needs to staff your business. The 4-day work week for a full-time employee will be hard to stomach, I would imagine. I don't know what you guys think. Let's continue it.
In Australia, from a government point of view, is they just fail to delineate between big business like banks and insurance companies and so on, and small businesses that are working with a completely different, reality. You can't run a cafe, that way because they're open when they're open, So anyway, it's just I don't want to get too negative on it, but I just hope that Australians are becoming a bit more politically interested.
I posted something yesterday and a lot of people commented back because I'm like, well, if they want a 4-hour work week, it'll turn into a 3-hour work week because nobody really works on Fridays anyways.
Correct.
So
like it's like they said, this can't be a rule for everyone. And it's true. I remember in my times in my 20s, time it got to Friday, we did jack all in the office. And I guess it was up to the bosses to pull us into line, but they didn't, and we just no one really worked that hard on a Friday. It's like, to be honest. But yeah, this is not going to apply for all businesses, the 4-day work week. But I definitely know I know people that have been well established in a very good company, and they might do like 9-day fortnights. So they might do some extra hours somewhere else, or I guess that's in theory, and they get that 1 day off.
I take note of how quiet my phone is on a Friday. I just want everyone to take note, right? Emails, text messages, WhatsApp messages, and phone calls on a Friday compared to any other day of the week. Very, very quiet. And actually, people picking up their phone on a Friday, right, is very, very rare, especially after 12 o'clock. Forget about it.
I honestly think, Eric, I think at first, I think, is it that we've become lazy, or is it that we're just so burned out and cooked, right? Because of inflation and how much things are costing, how much, I don't know what it is, but it's probably a combination of those.
Sorry. I was going to say, with that 4-hour work week, I haven't really kept abreast of the news. Were they saying instead of doing your 38 hours over 5 days, you still do the 38 hours over 4 days, or they're saying cut it out?
Yeah, they're saying do it during the 4 days.
Well, if you look at productivity from general, in general, out of an 8-hour workday, if you're getting 2 hours max productivity out of someone or employee, even yourself, unless you're doing deep work early in the morning, whatever time it is and hepped up on nicotine pills like Hormozy, you're getting probably if they're doing a 10-hour day, you're still getting the same 2 hours of productivity. So I mean, you're just paying more for the same outcome.
It's tough. Like if you're that entrepreneurial type, you would just be working and working and working to get the job done. It's a lifestyle, maybe what you're doing. Just depends on the role. But I can see once you start getting employees, and you're in I think of the small business side of things, it can be very tough and lonely at the top. Try and to like count every hour that your employee's doing. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I definitely think this should be just up to the employer. I guess in the private sector it might be, but if it's just like a public thing, I don't know how much work they do in the public sector anyway. Yeah, let's continue this.
It's a 4-day week is what I'm saying. It's like
I'm a believer in, like, yes, there's probably a partial of burnout and a partial of laziness, Adam, but I am not, like, I'm hiring an EA at the moment, and let me tell you, it's not one from Australia. People are going to bash me in the comments and the rest of it. That's fine, but like the quality.
He's absolutely right. I've had projects and I didn't hire anyone from Australia. All my people were from contractors overseas to do freelance work, and it was, especially like even in Europe, Eastern Europe, amazing quality. If you were to get that same person in Australia, you just can't afford it. And I did that a few times where there's someone that I knew and had the funds, but they were very, very expensive. The only good thing is that I really knew that person. But if you can establish someone overseas to do some VA work or some contract work for you, and you trust them, you're going to get amazing quality. I totally agree there.
Quality of people that I am getting in applications from overseas through a proper company is unbelievable. I'm talking like people with multiple, like MBAs, multiple diplomas, 10 years experience working for very, very high level corporate EA man, like someone that would probably cost here 150 grand, right? That would want to work maybe 4 hours. 4 days a week now, as an example of this thing actually passes through. But we have to realize, a work week isn't a 4-day work week. If anything, work weeks now are becoming larger, like 6-day work weeks is probably a bit more normal in the average person's life. But for what I can get there,
I think it all depends on your goals. If you can get a salary that you're happy with and can get away with the hours that you do and your employer is happy, or if you're the business owner and you're happy, then that's great. If you maybe do like the job, but you'd like to earn a bit more, but you can't, you're capped or whatever in your current job, then you're going to have to do that side hustle. And if that might go into the 6-day work week. Like if you see opportunities out there, that side hustle can be the fun thing. And you just have that safety net of maybe that full-time job and do the side hustle at night. Especially I think when you're younger, that's your go time. And once you getting a little bit older in life, and your time is even more precious if you've got a young family, that's going to be hard to do. You're going to have to put all your eggs in that, probably that one full-time job. Otherwise, you're going to be Superman or Superwoman, and that's what's going to lead to burnout.
Is literally a fraction of, I'm talking about 1/5 to 1/6 of the cost.
What are you expecting it'll cost, Derek?
About 30,000 Aussie. And that's like, I'm talking 30,000 Aussie will give you a top-notch person. You could go and pay less, 1,200 a month and 1,500 a month and this and that. But for between 2,500 to 3,000 a month, you're getting someone on a very, very high level. And the person that I'm using, which I'm not going to mention now because we're going to be doing some work with, and I'll be announcing that soon, right? They have a very, very large company here where they have 100 employees from overseas, right? And this is real numbers, right? Like 100 people overseas, and they are about 60% of the workforce, right? But they are actually less than 50% of the cost than the people actually here. And that's a scary thing, right? But in business, when I'm putting my business hat on, not the, okay, I feel bad for everybody. When I put, okay, Eric, business hat on, is businesses are having no choice but to look at these other ways to hire people. And it's unfortunate. It's actually unfortunate.
Thing is, Eric, like I saw a comment this week somebody put in our socials, and I thought it was interesting because we were talking. It was around that. It was a reel that we posted about that Brisbane law firm that got sued by a Filipino contractor. And the Filipino contractor.
We'll just move on a bit to the next one where they're going to talk about job losses and AI.
Problem. And I understand the unions thinking here. As much as I hate unions, and I think unions are responsible for sending Australia into just massive pits of debt. Like when you look at Victoria and you think about the massive overruns and you look at those machete bins and you look at all this complete and outright scamming of the Australian taxpayer. But the unions are going to this Talkfest and talking about wanting if a company lays off an employee, and like Atlassian, like you talked about last week, if they lay off an employee and replace it with AI, that the person still continues to get paid an AI subsidy for not doing the work, which is basically universal income, but paid for by the company that replaced them with the AI. And at first, as a capitalist, I can see Mark shaking his head, and I get it. Like as a capitalist, you go, what kind of socialist environment is this? But what kind of choice do we actually have? And should the business, because if you think it through, right, you got a business and they fire an employee that might be on 70 grand a year and they bring in an AI software that might cost them 10. So there's $60,000 of job value evaporated. And where does that value accrue? Because they're only going to do it if the replacement of the AI is as good as the person or better. Now it's probably going to actually be better because they won't have 2 hours of productivity a day. They'll have 24 hours a day of productivity. They won't have any holidays and da-da-da-da. So anyway, so you got this business that all of a sudden puts $60,000 straight to their bottom line, right? So these businesses all of a sudden become hugely profitable, right? But if you're in a business to business, like not like Eric's business, which is B2C, but if you're in a B2B, your customers are also experiencing the benefit of firing staff and increased profits, and you're only selling to each other, well, that might be fine. But what happens with a business like Eric, where, well, I mean, fine for the business, obviously not fine for the people losing their jobs. But if you're in a B2C business like Eric and you start firing the people, the consumers are going broke. So the business has this short-term sugar hit of, increased profit. But then the population of workers are losing their jobs, which then kills his business because they don't have any money unless there's UBI coming from the government.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is AI is definitely going to help in some business models, but where it's laying off people who then can't get a job, then that means they can't actually buy things. Then maybe those businesses that rely on consumers buying their things that were using automation to improve the profit line no longer have any customers. It's an interesting point of how this is all going to play out. It's It's nothing. It's like like I guess like the Industrial Revolution, and then look how that's played out. Like things just change, and everything will adjust over time. The markets will play itself out, but it is very interesting.
Or something like this union's proposal where they're saying, all right, well, if you're going to save $60,000 on losing an employee but not lose any productivity, how about you, I don't know the full details, but maybe what they're saying is pay 30 grand to the government, which then gets paid on as UBI, or it goes straight to the employee. I mean, it's a really interesting thought experiment to think how this impacts. Do you guys have any comments on that? Was that too confusing?
What was I reading? I was reading The Technological Republic by Alex Karp, the founder of Palantir, and he was basically saying that since the 1950s or 1960s that there's now because the media has become such a large part of society and cultures, like especially in the West, that we've gotten to a point that if someone didn't pay a train ticket or something, that it'd be all over the front page news, right? And what he basically said is that the studies have found that because everything is so heavily put into the limelight now, that the talent in government has actually decreased massively over the last decades, because who the hell in their right mind would want to put themselves under that scrutiny, right, to work in public office?
It's interesting, like even his comments saying like now, but I've always thought that throughout my whole life, like it's like who'd want to have some of those jobs? It just seems like you're gonna get criticized left, right, and center. But there's definitely people in those positions that have that thick skin or have that belief, and they push through. I'm sure there's also some that not doing probably the best job that they can. But it's always been like that. I sort of like once you get that government job, or do you go over to the private side where it is like it's private and you're not necessarily in the media at all for what you're doing unless something goes wrong in your company. If things go good, it's just praise and profits, but potentially. But when things go bad, yeah, it's interesting as being a leader, and I guess all those politicians are definitely in leadership positions, and if they're getting to the point where they can't, even the salaries that they get paid, that people are feeling it's not worth it. It's an interesting point.
And he basically says, like if you look at the tech companies have basically refused to work with the military because of public pressure and because of employee pressure. And we're moving into a time where really it's for America anyway, it's an arms race versus China, and they really need that support. But the long way of me saying the point that I'm trying to make is that technology is moving so fast, right? And these changes are coming at us so fast, they're going to have massive ripple effects for many, many years to come. But I don't believe that we've got the leaders in charge that are equipped to game theorize this out or to make the decisions that are going to lead us to a good place, right? Like so many countries, I think, are really going to suffer. There's going to be countries.
Man, tech is so fast. It gets developed so quickly, and it takes almost years for the government to put policies in place if things are getting out of control. It happens all the time. I think that's just the way it is.
To get it right, and there's going to be countries that suffer, and there's going to be like no in between. And my big fear is that we don't really have the leaders in power to kind of strategize this out and make the right decisions for our country. We've kind of seen that they haven't really made the right decisions over the last 30 years. Like productivity is so far down. Our resources have been sold for peanuts. hope do we have of getting this right when it's coming at us so fast that even the smartest minds in the world don't actually know how to deal with it?
Well, you know, when you got leaders like I put on those reels, you know, spending the same price as a Ferrari for a steel bin to put machetes in. I mean, I think what Australians should do is, you know, as a vote of no confidence, should go down to the sex shop and buy some dildos and stick them in there and just say, there you go, fill these bins with dildos and come up with a better idea.
How about to put laws in place to begin with so there aren't any machetes? Do you know what I mean? Like the thing is, you know, slaps on the wrist, and we're just creating these band-aid. It just doesn't make sense to me. But in my opinion, yeah, exactly.
We had the lady on the pod who was on the summit during the week, living in Dubai, and we were on that pod. We kicked around. Said, like, when you go to Singapore, like, there's no crime. Like, not visible like you see in Australia where you need machete bins. I mean, they'd be shot in a heartbeat. Same as Dubai. It's like, how do we bring back a little bit of a stronger form of punishment that's going to deter people to do this stupid shit to start with?
It was called the wooden spoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Like the wooden spoon is long gone. And I mean, that's a whole other debate. But I think going back to you, Adam, that is a problem. Right, because at the end of the day, you need the customers to have the money to keep spending, you know, the disposable income on things. And if they're getting let go and jobs aren't there to be replaced, I totally understand. And that goes back to that universal basic income theory that you know has been talked about for quite some time. And I honestly think, that's where it is going to go.
100% it will.
Because that's what it is. Whether it's paid, where does the money come from? Universal basic income will just not come from the government. It will come from the businesses. It will come from the people, and it will be distributed to a certain amount of people. That it's already kind of what's happening now. Centrelink is kind of, it's growing, right? Like there's like when you look at people on Centrelink that need.
I don't know, like Centrelink, it's not a nice feeling. If you've ever lost a job and gone into Centrelink, I think in my 20s I had a job, one of my first jobs, and then got made redundant. And then I was looking for a job, but my dad at the time said, "Look, just go into Centrelink, and if you don't get that job straight away, at least you get some money coming in." But yeah, it doesn't feel good to go into that place. I'm not sure what it's like to go into those places these days, but this sounds like something different. I've never heard of it before. Universal basic income. I don't know if anyone's had any experience with that. I'll have to do a bit of research myself on that now, with what they're talking about, that every Australian will be on Centrelink in 10 years' time.
Need it, fair enough, but there's a lot of people that are on Centrelink that don't need it, right? And the incentive of going and working for a minimum wage versus what you get on Centrelink.
I agree, Eric. I mean, that, like, I can't believe I'm saying this as an entrepreneur, but I would be really interested to think through that idea that if a business replaces a job with an AI and they were profitable with employees in place, and they can replace a human being and just put that entire salary to the bottom line, well, you know, is there a case for some kind of I don't know.
It's already happening. It's already happening, Adam.
Yeah,
it's already happening. Like, look at I think it's definitely Nvidia, and I think it's Nvidia, and I don't know which is the other one. Maybe it's Taiwan Semi, or I'm not sure who, but Nvidia now have to give the US government 15% of every single one of the chips that they sell to China. So,
all right, guys, we'll leave it there. Put your thoughts in the comments below of why every strain will be on Centrelink. Sort of feel like it was going a bit round in circles there in towards that provocative title, but I know what they're trying to say here. Look, put your comments in the below and what your thoughts are. All right, till the next one.